Hey everyone, so today I'm wanting to show you a tutorial on a synth that I've had quite a lot of requests for over the past few months. It's not exactly a carbon copy of Hardwell's synth he uses in his track Encoded, but it's pretty similar. It's also quite a popular sound at the minute, and you can change it about quite easily to make your own version of it if you like. So it is actually on my second refill pack, which if you haven't checked out, you can look at the demo video on my YouTube channel, and there's also a link where you can grab it in the description for this video. So anyway, what you have to do is create a combinator. Inside the combinator you're going to want a 4 synthesizer. Make sure it's initialized. So right click and reset device, or initialize patch I think it is on the older versions of Reason. And then once you got this, what you're going to want to do, I don't know why I done this, but for some reason I decided to use oscillators 2 and 3 instead of oscillators 1 and 2. Doesn't really matter which way you do it, it's all the same really. So go ahead and put a multi-oscillator into oscillator 2. Leave the octave at 4. Actually, sorry, before I do this, make sure it's on polyphonic, turn the portamento on, and bring the portamento amount down to 16. And then, right, back to oscillator 2. So, octave 4, then you're going to want to put it on random 2 detune mode, leave it at a sawtooth, and bring the amount up to 35. And then oscillator 3, another multi-oscillator. This time bring the octave up to 5, leave it on sawtooth, random 2 detune mode again, and bring the amount up to 34. Then what you're going to want to do, route these to oscillator 1 by doing that. Bring up the frequency on the filter. Change it to, no sorry, keep it on type 2, 24 type 2. But you're going to want to put the res up to 25, and that's all we're going to do there. On the mixer, chuck the balance right over to 127, so it's just oscillator 2 coming through, and then bring down the level of oscillator 3 to minus 5.2 decibels. And then, so you're going to want to put, we're going to use a high pass filter as well. So state variable filter in oscillator in filter 2. Turn it on by doing this. Then change it to high pass. Then you're going to want to bring the frequency down to about 96 Hertz. And the res you're going to want to leave where it is. But you're going to want to turn the envelope amount, filter to envelope amount up to 99. All this filter is doing really is cutting out anything below 96 Hz because it's the lead synth we're using. But it's also quite good to automate it, to bring it up, and I'll show you later what that does, but it's quite cool to do. So we'll move on to the LFO. Going to want to turn keysync on so it re-triggers every time a note is played. Then you're going to want to turn the rate up to 16.8 Hz. Leave the delay and the keyboard follow down, and you want to change it to this sawtooth waveform. And then we will go to the filter envelope, make sure the attack is down to 0. Then you're going to want the decay at 45.2 seconds, and you want the sustain to 30 decibels, minus 30 decibels that is, sorry, minus 30.8, and the release you're going to want right down to 3.2, and this just kind of adds a little bit more pluckiness to the sound. And then amp envelope, attack to 0, decay to 159 milliseconds, and the sustain all the way up, and the release you're going to want to touch up to 423. And then I think the last thing we'll do for the synth is turn the chorus on. Now the delay you're going to want to leave the same. The feedback you're going to want at 12. The modulation rate you're going to want at 8.9, and the amount you're going to want at 44. Now we're going to try turn the dry wet down to 31. Sorry, there's one more thing we need to do on the synth. I'm going to use this LFO to automate both these oscillators pitches, and this just kind of detunes the sound a little bit, makes it sound a bit wider. It just adds more texture really. So go to the matrix down here, put LFO1 as the source, then destination. For the first one you're going to want oscillator 2 pitch, and then for the second one oscillator 3 pitch. And then go ahead and turn this first one, the amount, down to -26. And then for the second one we're going to go the opposite way and turn it up to +26. So if I just, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll copy this over. So you can hear there how it's kind of adding like a sort of tremolo. So you can muck about with how much, this is kind of like the dry wet of that, how much you want that on, and also we'll play about with the waveform of the LFO, also the rate as well, and maybe you can put a delay on it to offset the start of the LFO. But that's up to you, it's something else you can play about with. I'll show you quickly what I was talking about, the high pass filter. If you automate it can be quite handy for breaks and stuff like that when you're using this kind of synth. So after you've got that, you're going to want to create 2 M-class equalizers. And then for the first one, go ahead and turn on everything. And for the low shelf, you're going to want to put it up to 452 Hertz, 2.7, and then you're going to want 1.7 here, and then leave this at -6.2. And then for param 1 you're going to want to go up to 4,204 Hertz. For the gain you're going to want to bring it down to -1.1, and the Q you're going to want at 2.8, and then for param 2 bring it down to 275. -275.3 -2.3 decibels, and the Q you're going to want at 5.7, so just leave that where it is. And then for the high shelf you're going to want to bring it down to 3000, pump up the gain to 7.1 decibels, and the Q you're going to leave where it is. Then for the second EQ you're just going to use param 1, param 2 and the high shelf. For param 1 you're going to want it up to 6,840 Hertz. The gain touch up slightly to 0.6, and the Q you're going to want at 3.3. And then for param 2 you're going to want the frequency at 889 Hertz, 0.4, -2.3 decibels, and the Q you're going to want to leave at 5.7. And then finally leave the high shelf at 6,000, the gain you're going to want at 4, and the Q leave where it is. And then we're going to add another EQ, but this time we're going to use the PEQ, two band EQ, and then you're going to want to turn the frequency down to 30. The Q you're going to want at 64, so leave that where it is, and then minus 24 for the decay, the gain. And then we're going to create a digital reverb. Put it on a gated reverb. The size you're going to want at minus 35. The decay you're going to want at 0, so leave that where it is. The damp you're going to want at 26, and then you're going to want to bring the dry wet down to 14. And the last thing we're going to do is just add a compressor to kind of beef up the sound a bit. So for the input you're going to want 5.1 decibels. The threshold you're going to want at minus 7.7. You're going to want to turn the soft knee on as well. The ratio you're going to want at 1.95 over 1. Attack at 18 milliseconds. And the release you're going to want at 331. So stop slightly. And ever so slightly boost the output gain to 0.4, and there you have it. If you just quickly listen to it. Yep, that sounds about right to me. So, as I said, you can muck about with the LFO amount on the oscillator's pitch, or the rate of the LFO, the waveform of that. It can also be quite good to automate the high pass filter, and you can pick different reverbs as well. You can have a nice big long reverb for it, or even playing with the release of the amp envelope as well is quite good. So when you do that, you kind of get a more trancey sound out of it. But basically, yeah, just experiment with, I don't know, mucking about with different knobs, so you get some cool sounds. So cheers guys, I'll see you next time.